window, leave at your own chosen
I
speed.
guess I'm interested in Ian asked you, where do you find the most meaning? You're talking about your personal experiences. To me, it's about the gray agenda to transform humanity to a superior human in the future, hybrid human. Uh, is that really meaningful to you? Or are there other things that are even more meaningful to you about the ET reality?
Well, the first thing is, I think we're beyond, with our group and with most people in the field now, we're beyond trying to prove it or trying to get proof of it. That's not relevant. What is relevant is understanding an alien agenda of what the plan is. None of this is for nothing. They're not just space tourists. There's some program that's been going on for the last at least 40 years of genetic harvesting of human beings. And it's a multi-generational thing that is looking at genetics for our species. And we keep moving those hands of the clock nearer to midnight for that final scenario of how this world is going to end. We're probably anyway reaching the end of the lifespan of our civilization, in that we become technologically advanced, but not spiritually advanced enough to tame it, and that we are the architects of our own destruction. And we've probably gone through this before, and we're doing it again, because we never learn from it. Because, as Jeff's aliens say, we've got this grabbing aspect that wants control and doesn't want to let go, and that's where we're putting ourselves and possibly other dimensions at risk with our technology. But also, is there something very special about us, or are we all now a hybrid DNA manipulated species? Or is there something unique about us and a unique about our soul, or our very essence? In the grand scheme of things, looking at the Earth, do we think that is it even worth it? I mean, when you look at it, I mean, it's worth it to us because we're the inhabitants. But it would be nothing for an ET civilization to pluck some specimens of us and put us on another planet and start us again. That's just so simple, so straightforward. Why are we so wrapped up? I mean, we're so wrapped up in it because it's our home, and we currently have no way of getting off it. So those that are in who think about these things know that we've got to get our shit together on this planet and get ourselves sorted out. Otherwise, we will be gone.
Yeah, we'll be a has-been civilization, and we'll end up being in the future. There'll be archaeologists from wherever, and they'll look back on us and go, now what was that for, or what happened to them? And it's like you get with technology, it's a two-edged sword. It gets to where it can either be for good or evil, and when you don't have other things at the level that you need to have a balance, then this is what we have. We have so many issues in this world that, sad to say, mankind has created itself. And just look at Fukushima and these other terrible things that have happened. And then with the weather control, and when you look at things and you come from a mind of common sense and care and love and want the best for everyone, you just shake your head and go, why are those that have to actually play with things that they don't know anything about, and then look at what happens? And as human beings, I believe we're born with innate need to actually explore and do things and a curiosity. But if you don't have the right spiritual attitude and mindset to things, look at where we're going, you know.
I think
And
we probably had 4 civilizations have been wiped out in the past, so we're next. But I think what
yeah,
Ian's getting at is instead of it just happening again and it's wiping us out, but it seems this hybrid agenda, the idea is to transform us into more spiritual beings. The idea, grace or the hybrids will be more spiritual to counteract the destruction so that we can carry on as a superior species. I'm just wondering, I like your view on it, Ian. Like, I wanted to get your perspective. Do you have that same idea that they're trying to curb the destruction by getting rid of Homo sapiens sapiens and having a superior spiritual hybrid as the end result?
Well, looking at the evidence, and the evidence is the anecdotal evidence that's told to us, because this is where we are in the field at the moment, and it's a good source of information, is to actually find out what the actual experiences themselves are being told, and to, let's say, build up a picture that's the most realistic and probable picture. And the probable picture is the picture that if we were doing this, we would want to save the species, to have the species continue on a physical level. But we also want them to be spiritually evolved, so they're not going to wipe themselves out again. But then again, do we have this special, unique feature, this grabbing feature, that again is sought after because it's the last bit of free will, maybe the last bit of free will that even the aliens don't seem to have this free will. They're programmed to do this. The what we call the progenitors have sent out these beings and their scientists who seem to be, you know, from our point of view, their lives would be a pretty boring life. Yeah, they've got all the high technology and everything else. They can plug themselves in. They don't have to worry about food, and the technology protects them. But then where's all the excitement in all of this? Where's the weekend white rafting down a river in a kayak, or the camping out under the stars in the wilderness? Where's the competitiveness of sport and the excitement of romance and love? It's something like, yeah, but they might be technologically advanced, but aren't we years ahead of them with the way that we live our lives generally when we do?
I think that's a big philosophical question. Like Shirley Hansen, I guess others, and Jeff are suggesting, is they do have a hive mind. Like you're saying, they have a collective hive mind. They work, and Jeff described he was in a room and they showed, the Grace said, this is our God, which is some type of white light. So there seems to be a hierarchical order and structure, and everyone follows along. And like Shirley Hansen was saying when she was 8 years old in the craft, that nobody argues here, everyone gets along. So it seems quite nice. But the point you're making is that we got free will, and we can be the rugged individualists, we can do that. But it seems to me their civilization is better. It's a higher realm, more heavenly, that like Shirley saying, that they don't argue. And also they have these devices sitting in the chair where they can have virtual reality, go into any realm you want, or in history. Sounds quite exciting, even though they have a collective. It seems, I mean, okay, so they're losing maybe free will, but that, and Jeff's pointed out too, human beings, we don't have a collective, so it's a real political existential problem. 7.8 billion people, everyone has their own idea of what we should do, and the environment's degraded, and politically people are taking advantage of each other. The elites are taking advantage of the poor. It's not working out. Like it's the grabbing function is not working out. So I guess it's a question. Okay, free will, we've got something maybe that the Greys don't have, but I think overall their system's better. So I think us becoming hybrids is a better thing to do. not just for the survival of the planet and humanity, but probably it's a better society. But you're making the point that, well, we've got free will. So that's kind of the one thing we can have. We can have like competitive sports and stuff and fall in love. So what do you think? What's better overall? What do you think?
Well, at the end of the day, is it really anything? Do we get a choice? That's the thing. Are we going to have other races make our minds up for us, or is there something like on the Star Trek kind of the non-interference or the first directive, whereby they'll just have to watch this civilization fall apart, or as Roger Waters put in his in his album, the alien anthropologists looked at each other and said the species has amused itself to death as we just hurtle our way into this into some inevitable cataclysm, mostly maybe of our own design, and they're just stepping in to pick out a few specimens that they can because of an interest that they want to preserve the life. Is it really that important? Do we have something that others don't have that makes us so special? You know, I feel quite glad that somebody out there, and this is my take as well, I feel quite glad that somebody out there obviously cares enough to intercede, even if we don't see it at the moment as totally for our benefit.
Yeah, I guess you didn't quite answer the question. If you had to decide, would you rather have humanity the way it is with our grabbing quality, or would you rather we became gray hybrids? Like, which civilization do you think is better if you had to decide?
Yeah, I would vote for retaining my free will, because I think once we start surrendering to the hive mind, even if it's sold out like everything else is, as something that we need and can't do without, such as the latest technology, I think that a happier person, we always hear this from the generation before, saying we were always happier without those trappings of the 21st century as we are in now. So, you know, I would be going, no, it's probably best to be to live life to the full, but with the risks, than to accept the risks, than to accept the protection, but live a life that's not so exciting. The analogy would always be perhaps when looking at a caged animal in a zoo. Yeah, it gets its food, it lives a long life, and it occasionally gets to breed. But at the end of the day, it doesn't run the plains and do its own thing, and forage for itself and know how to look after itself.
This is a really good philosophical conversation. That's why it's a high level in a meetup. I was actually surprised. I thought you were going to say, well, the gray civilization is better. Like Jeff is saying that they are more spiritual, and they use their technology for their spiritual development. They're spiritual oriented, and they use their technology for this. And he described his elder Grace. Sometimes she would just sit, and he said they're like Buddhists. She would just sit and be and exist. So I guess I'd have to disagree with you. I think their civilization is more spiritually oriented, and I think a collective is politically. I think it's a good thing. Maybe we're losing some free will. Maybe that's some disadvantage. Like, to me, it's a compromise or a trade-off. I think politically having a collective is a good idea, and Jeff expressed this as well, that one problem we have with humanity today in the 21st century and the past is that we're not a collective, meaning it's not just countries fighting each other, it's the elite against the poor, and there's no genuine political caring from the top down. Like, from the top down, they're trying to exploit the masses. And if we had a more of a collective political system, like say the gray system, where the top down, like the mantis, the mantis down to the grays, actually cares about the little grays the average gray and then lower species, it seems there's lots of caring and compassion throughout their society. So I guess I describe, I'm an advocate of the new system of human beings becoming hybrids. I'm an advocate of it. I've taken sides in a sense, but I admit, it's only last year for me and Jeff that I had this hypothesis. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open up to evidence. Am I being misled? I mean, I'm just, it's an hypothesis. I'm willing to change my mind due to evidence. I just want to mention, like, the prime directive on Star Trek, that came from Gene Kuhn, not from Gene Roddenberry. Gene Kuhn, he entered the series in the second year of Star Trek, and his wife said he came up with things like the Klingons and some major concepts. His wife said to be writing a script and he'd get stuck, and he said, well, I'll just take a nap and the ideas will come to me. So he'd take a nap, then he'd wake up and all these ideas would come and be typing away. And she'd say, why are you typing so fast? He said, I have to type like a demon on fire because the ideas come so fast. So it indicates maybe this was channeled to Gene Kuhn. So anyways, the prime directive came from him, but I think what's actually happening is the Greys and the aliens, they do not follow a prime directive. As we can see, they're leading, they're deciding humanity's future. As well as I would say, well, the law of karma controls everyone, including all the aliens. So it's within our law of karma. And Jeff had this conversation with Rolf on a previous video. Rolf said, do they control human destiny? You know, and Jeff will say, well, yeah, they do. And Rolf's here as well. So it seems that, of course, they're not doing it openly, right? They're not doing it openly and landing on the White House lawn. They're doing it by stealth. So it seems in reality, they're not following a prime directive, obviously, since they seem to be guiding us along. And Mimi expressed this in a previous talk, which we videoed as well, that she's opposed to us not being consulted, decisions being made without a democratic vote or us not being consulted. I can understand we're not being, I guess from my view, what's actually happening, regardless of my opinion, is we're not being consulted. Obviously the Greys are just doing what they're doing. Maybe some governments know about it and that no one's talking about it or revealing it. But obviously it seems we're not being consulted, that decisions are made about our future. But my analogy I wrote to Jeff last week, it's kind of like parents bring their kids to nursery school, and parents have a sense, well, after nursery school, the kids aren't aware they're going to go to kindergarten, then elementary school, then high school, and their whole future is being guided, the whole life is being guided by their parents. And kids, they're just aware they're going to nursery school. So to me, this is my attitude of how the Greys and Federation planets are trying to have some curation or maintenance or planetary stewardship over humanity. Well, they think they're trying to help us out and guide us along for our benefit. And it's also for their benefit as well. I would admit that if the gray aliens, they can't live in our atmosphere as it is, they need a hybrid to actually live here. So it's symbiotic relationship. It's supposedly good for them as well as us. For them to be in this planet, they need to be a hybrid. So that's my current hypothesis. But like I said, I'm always trying to refine my view, my hypothesis. So I just wanted to get your rebuttal or your response to my view on what I just said.
Well, yeah, my view is that I'm afraid that if we tap into the high tech, allowing us everything, giving us everything, albeit it'll be a virtual reality and not one of our own choosing, we will find that we are then losing our free will. And
That's right.
there used to be a book called The Only Planet of Choice, and maybe this is the only planet of choice. Maybe this is one of the last bastions of free will out there, because when we meet these ETs, they all seem to be of a collective AI-based mindset, even if they are benevolent and will have our best interests at heart. And is that really what we want for ourselves, or is it our inevitable future?
one response I'd have to that is, I think most people with our free will, well, let's say they're controlled by the globalists. The globalists give us television and media and society, which is basically atheistic, materialistic. Like your society is not promoting a spiritual appreciation of life. Television is like sports and stuff. It's so most people I say are spiritually lost, or they're not making great spiritual efforts. Their spirituality is something they do maybe a few minutes before they go to bed, they meditate. So spiritual development or actual genuine personal growth is not at the center of people's lives. And I say most people in the world, maybe their lives are not really growing and developing that much. So in a way, they're kind of spinning their wheels. So my point is the actual result of free will for 7.8 billion people is they're not doing that very, very good. Also, if you look at, say, back in the 1950s, maybe there's more wholesome family values in the past, and things are getting worse, like the Buddhist Hindu view of the Kali Yuga, that we're morally, spiritually going downhill. So yeah, so again, I'm commenting on the value of free will, like how good is humanity doing with its free will? But I would say someone like the Buddha in 5th century BC, he had his free will. There are these rare individuals that focus on the spiritual development, make great strides, get full and complete enlightenment being a Buddhist. You know, if you're an arhat with free will, you can achieve full and complete enlightenment. So still, I would say from a Buddhist view, my view, that's the highest being in the universe, is a fully enlightened arhat, even higher than the Greys or a mantis. So that's one advantage of free will, that as human beings, there could be some small minority with free will who could really grow spiritually and really hit the highest heights of what a being can do in the entire universe. So I'm thinking that's maybe something special about human beings. Like the theory that the aliens recognize there's something special about the human soul, that they can achieve full and complete enlightenment. So there is something special about us. But the other, another thing about that is like Susie Hansen, she had a previous life as a gray, and other people have had previous lives. So in terms of the soul, I would say humans are not unique because of our past lives. We could have been other planets, we could have been aliens, we could have been grays, we could have other things. We have a human life. And Jeff's elder stated that in a future life, she will be his younger brother as a human being in a future life. So she's aspiring or intending to take her birth as human. So it seems in terms of the soul, certainly from Buddhist view, there's a continuum of the Buddha described a beginningless series of previous lives, like beginningless, truly, there's no concept of beginning. So I would say the human being is not unique, especially if you look in the galaxies and all the galaxies. And I'd say we're probably some type of hybrid. So the soul itself, since it comes and goes, I mean, you could be an animal, a hell being, a ghost, a deva, a heavenly being, an angel, a human, a gray and back. I would say probably we're not particularly unique and special. So still, I think the collective, I think overall, it's worth it. The direction the grays are planning for us to become a hybrid of human and gray. Overall, I still, it's worth it. I vote in favor of it. And I think if we have to give up some of our collective free will, especially if it's going to save the planet, prevent nuclear war, I'm still in favor of it.
Yeah, it's funny because we're the lab rats in this anyway. So at the end of the day, we don't go to the lab rats and say, well, what do you want to do, guys? Do you want the electrodes put in your brains and live forever, or do you want to, or shall I let you go out the back of the lab?
Yeah. Of course, those lab rats don't really have any choice. We have no choice about what the grays are doing to, like, most people are not aware of this. So we simply have no choice, right? They're gonna, Mimi said, I don't give consent, I don't give consent. I don't want grays or whoever to do this. She mentioned the grays, but still, I mean, no one's asking for her consent. They're just gonna do it anyways. I mean, realistically, that's the situation we're in, right?
Yeah, although we do hear, as I say, sometimes a lot of this in this phenomena works upon the agreement sorted, permissions given. And Jeff says, well, you agreed to this. They told him, you agreed to this. And many people will say that we did agree on some sort of soul level to what we signed up for. However, they do still seem to want our agreement to certain things. And this is another aspect. I don't know how much you've heard Dave. I mean, Dave's back now. The dog's back in, I hear. So, Dave, I don't know how many of these shows you've heard before that we've done, where I've talked, for example, about people having interactions with people who are not quite human, and when they almost inevitably ask a question, seeking some sort of agreement on something before they can move on. And it seems they're stuck on this, but you can face them down and don't give them the agreement, and then they lose that power. And it's an odd thing to do, because they're the ones with the technology. Why do they need our agreement to do anything? Is that the key to access to the soul?